Are you tired? Are you worn out? Or do you feel broken and distracted and anxious about a lot of things? In Matthew 11:28, Jesus is speaking and he says, "Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. For I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." Did you know that Jesus actually promises us rest right here and right now? That he promises us joy and peace and a life of satisfaction and happiness. But for many of us, we don't know what this means. We don't experience this. I remember the first time I bought a real adult bike, and I had to buy it for my brother. He was selling me his bike. He was going to get a new one. And I remember I saved up so much money for this thing. I think it was like $72.50. And I remember that I was literally crying as I was handing the money to my brother because, one, I knew Bo was ripping me off, but two, I thought for sure that this wasn't worth it. But as I finally got my new bike, well, new to me, I got to learn how to ride a bike without the training wheels, a real big boy bike, right? And you've probably learned something new, and when you learn something new, it takes practice, and then after a while, it becomes sort of natural, and then give it some time, and you're even doing some tricks. Now, I never really did any tricks, and I fell a lot on that bike, but it's something, I tell you that story because it's similar to our walk with God, that we have to sometimes practice what it means to let Jesus be our life, to let Jesus live his life through us, to let Jesus love us and care for us and meet our needs. Because I don't know if you've noticed, but the way of this world is completely different than the way of Jesus, right? The way of this world is that we're achieving more, we're doing more to be better, we're constantly having to prove ourselves, we constantly feel the need to just be better and do more. And when we come to Jesus, he says, no, just come to me and I'll give you rest. Give me your burdens. Give me everything that you care about. Give me everything that's worrying you. Give me everything that's stressing you out. And I will exchange that with my rest, with my peace. I love you. I don't want you to fake it around me. I want you to just come just as you are. And I want you to learn from me. That's what he says. He uses the word yoke. And in that day, yoke literally meant teaching. But in this analogy, he's talking about, have you ever seen two animals and they yoke them together with this device and it attaches them together? And Jesus is saying, in me, you'll be attached to me forever. You'll be connected with me forever. And the reason why Jesus' way is easy and light is not because our circumstances will always be okay. It's not because he promises us perfect emotions. But instead, he says, I'm going to do the heavy lifting. I'm going to bear your burdens. I'm going to sustain you. I'm going to be your life. I'm going to be your everything. So will you let me? Will you let me? We do the letting, right? And God does all the living in and through us. And everything that he's calling us to, he will accomplish through us. He is faithful. He promises us rest right here and right now. And so he says that he's gentle. Do you realize that God is kind and gentle towards you? That he's not in a hurry? That he's not in a hurry for you to behave perfectly? But he's inviting you. He's inviting us all to a life of rest in him. I used to think all God wanted was for me to work for him, to do more for him. But now I realize that God doesn't want me to work for him. He wants me to enjoy him. That God doesn't want me to just do a bunch of things for him like I'm his employee. Instead, he wants to be friends with me. He wants me to know him, and he wants me to know that he knows me, that he knows you. I've shared this illustration before, but when I was on a plane, I finally listened to the long speech that the flight attendees gave. And part of that speech is the oxygen mask. And if you've never been on a plane before, you wouldn't know. But on this plane, in a case of emergency or something happening, oxygen masks come down. And what they say is that you're supposed to put your mask on before you help others. That struck me. I used to think that the Christian life was all about me loving other people and doing good things. And I thought that's what God wanted. I thought true humility was thinking of others more than myself, that this is what God wanted for me. But now I see that what Jesus teaches is that we have to receive his love before we can love others. That we have to understand the love that we have, that God has for us, before we can ever go and love other people. Put another way, we've got to put on our own oxygen mask and receive God's love before we can turn around and help others receive their love. We have to take care of ourselves. And that's really what the heart of Matthew 11:28 through 30 is we got to learn the way of Jesus. And the way of Jesus is this: receive my love for you. And just sit there, bask in that. Bask in that fury of God's love and that recklessness of God's love. Enjoy that love. Depend on that love. Trust on that love. And then we'll get to you having the opportunity to love other people. Don't forget, put that mask on this week. Don't forget to receive God's love. He cares for you. He'll never stop loving you. There's nothing you can do to separate yourself from his love. You can't exhaust God's love. He'll never get tired of loving you. So if you're tired, you're worn out, remember, Jesus is your life. He's given you this rest, and he's inviting us all to receive his love today.